When I started nurse practitioner, I was working full time. I started school. I was in the hospital for a little bit, and then a surgery center. It was a lot. I had a lot going on, and I quickly recognized if I wake up at even 6 or 7, I just don't have time to get stuff done. So I started waking up earlier, and frankly, I'm really productive early on. And as the day goes on, I get less and less productive. Early morning, I'm trying to get the most amount of work done possible because that's when I'm sharp. It helps me be really regimented. That's an easy win. Find ways to make easy wins. Front load your days with the hard stuff. Build that positive reinforcement. Hey guys, welcome back to the Nico Misleh Podcast. It's me, Nico. And today I'm going to talk about my daily routine. Someone asked for it. Actually, multiple people did. So I thought, okay, I'll talk about that. They had asked me to write a daily email about it, to be fair, but to be honest, that would take forever. It'd be a lot to go through. So I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna verbalize it because I think it'll be maybe more interesting or helpful. I don't know. I don't think my day-to-day life is all that interesting, but I think it'll be fun. Let's put it that way. So, a lot of the reason people, I think, wanted to know what my daily routine was like and all that kind of stuff was mostly just from a sense of how do you manage to get things done? Which, by the way, I've said this already, I'm far from perfect on that front. In fact, that's something I grow with every single day because I'm not very good at it. But I've gotten a lot better as the years have kind of gone on and as I've kind of accrued more businesses and employees and responsibilities and stuff like that. So anyways, I thought it'd be interesting. So top to bottom here, my days vary a little bit. So right now, I do still see patients. I plan on seeing patients. I think indefinitely. I like it. I enjoy it. I really do. Although HRT University and the education side of things has really taken off and has taken more of my time, which, by the way, I love. And I'm leaning into that because it's something that brings me a lot of joy. And in a lot of ways, I get to kind of indirectly, treat even more patients that way. So that's kind of exciting. But I spend about a day or two a week seeing patients right now, which is great. I have some amazing teammates who are working with me at Apollo. Leslie is one of them. Rachel will be joining us here, depending on when you're listening to this, pretty soon, which is really exciting. They're incredible nurse practitioners and really sweet people. And I love that. I love being surrounded by those people. So anyways, that's been amazing because it's really freed up a little bit more time to focus on the education side. But, maybe I'll break it down from a clinic day to a non-clinic day, for example. So, a clinic day is, honestly, it's a little bit more straightforward. In terms of I wake up, I tend to wake up between 4 and 5 a.m. every single morning, naturally. For those of you who think I'm a freak of nature, maybe I am. I don't know. I've always been that way. I've always been a morning person. I'm that guy who wakes up and is raring to go and I want to have full conversations and blah, blah, blah. And if you're not a morning person, I'm your worst nightmare. So, and my wife is, poor Cheryl, she's not a morning person. So I kind of am her worst nightmare. But I wake up and I honestly, I didn't, to be fair, I didn't start waking up that early. I always probably naturally woke up between 6 and 7. But when I started nurse practitioner schooling and whatnot, I was working full time. I started school. I was in the hospital for a little bit and then a surgery center for a little while as I kind of finished out my master's degree for a family nurse practitioner. I had my now oldest daughter kind of in the midst of that. So it was a lot. I had a lot going on. And I quickly recognized wow, if I wake up at even 6 or 7, I just don't have time to get stuff done. I really, really don't. So I started waking up earlier because, again, for me, that's an easy win, a really easy win. I don't have problems waking up earlier. It doesn't bother me. And frankly, I'm really productive early on. And as the day goes on, I get less and less productive. So I'm not a night owl. So I always set this up. And by the way, I'll maybe get into this for a second here. Creating discipline, so to speak, or mastering that art is a lot more about how do I build in these habits, but also create easier wins for me so that it doesn't feel like a huge burden. So for example, I was mentioning this to someone, if you're a night owl naturally, like if that's just when your juices are flowing and you feel really sharp, like my wife, Cheryl, she's a night owl. Like she can get really great work done. She often does in the evening hours. The girls are asleep. She's got a few hours to herself kind of thing. She can knit. She can, do all the amazing things that Cheryl does. If you see me past like 7:30, 8 p.m., I'm a disaster. Like I am struggling to stay awake. I'm like sleeping on my brain is mashed potatoes. I have attempted to do work in the evenings and it's terrible. The quality's bad. You can tell there's such a big difference. I knew that early on, like back in college. Some of my friends would do the whole, like, I'm going to pull an all-nighter and stay up till all hours of the morning learning this stuff before the exam. I did that maybe once ever. And I was so miserable. My memory, I couldn't retain anything. I couldn't write well. I couldn't speak. And by the next morning, like now I'm just really exhausted and I'm going in to take an exam or test or whatever. And honestly, I was putting myself in just a worse position. So I didn't do that. I stopped doing that immediately and recognized, okay, if I want an easy win here, for me, for my lifestyle, for my own kind of natural rhythms, it would make way more sense for me to wake up earlier than try to stay up later. So that's what I did. So again, very early on, I started waking up. I mean, honestly, back when I was working in the surgery center, I had to be in at like 5:30. So I would wake up at like 3:30. It was a little rough. I did that for maybe about a year or so, but it worked. I mean, I was able to get a lot of work done. My oldest daughter at the time, she was like a newborn for the most part. And so it was just a moment in time where nobody's awake. The house was quiet and I could just sit down and get my work done. Amazing. I've loved that ever since. I've just moved the time up a little bit because 3 o'clock's pretty rough. It meant I was going to bed at like, seriously, like 8 o'clock, maybe earlier. That was tough. So nowadays, wake up between 4 and 5. I don't have an alarm. I don't need one. I'm not suggesting that that's a good idea for everybody, but I just, my body wakes up at that time and I love that. It's an easy wake up. One of the things I do is I try not to like wake up and just lay there because all of a sudden the bed feels really warm and cozy. And maybe if I just lay my head back down, when I'm up, I'm like, okay, time to get up. And I just get out of bed. And the minute my feet hit the floor, I'm good. I'm out of that state of like, oh, go back to bed. Don't worry about it. I just go right back into like, nope, it's work time. So I get up, grab my phone, head downstairs, let my beautiful dog out, Silas, to go pee. So it's just him and I now. And I get right to work. I'm writing my daily emails. But the first thing I really like to do, I try my best. I'm not perfect at this either, but I try not to read any emails. I try not to get on Facebook. I try not to do anything other than just like sit with my thoughts for a second. And I think that's really helpful. Personally, I say a little prayer. It's nothing magical, but it's magical to me, I guess. And it's not long. It could be short. Sometimes it's longer, but I'm also really asking like, what can I do today? What problem could I maybe help solve or maybe address and just communicate with people who I love and who are interested in, learning about HRT, for example, or business or whatever for my daily email. And so I pray about that for a second and then I sit down and I just start writing. And I find that works great. Again, I don't pre-plan any of my written material at all. The daily emails, they are fresh. They're like coming out hot out of my brain onto my laptop. Many of you will catch typos and horrible grammatical and spelling errors. And it's because it's just me writing at like 5 a.m. in the morning. That's just my thoughts. And so I put all that together. And I really like that. It's like almost like a challenge too, right? Like, okay, come up with something interesting and exciting and, what's new out there in terms of studies. Like sometimes if I have the time, I'll really sit there and just kind of browse through like some of the things that I find interesting. And almost always there's just this like, aha, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Like I would say that happens like 98% of the time. It just kind of comes to me. I start writing. I try my best to keep it to like want to try to get that email done in like 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes me a little longer. I'm not only long-winded on a podcast and in person, but also in writing. Probably some of you guys have noticed that. It's a gift and a curse, I think. But I like it. And so I think I've gotten better over time at trying to condense some of my thoughts and words, but I just start writing. So 30 minutes about, right? So by 5:30, 6 o'clock, I should be like kind of wrapped up with my daily email. Which is perfect timing because then the girls are getting up. The girls wake up early, just like I do. And then I'm making them breakfast and, they're so cute in the mornings and it's really fun. And I love that time of the morning. Like, I feel like I can now okay, let's focus on family for a second and be involved. And so I make breakfast and we eat together. Sherelle at that time is usually up and getting ready and all that kinds of stuff, which is cool. So she kind of gets her time to wake up because it takes her a little bit longer to wake up than I do. I'm having my coffee. I don't know if for those of you who don't know me well enough, I'm a big coffee guy. I love coffee. I really, really, really love coffee. And frankly, not because of the caffeine. To me, that's maybe a little cherry on top. I just love coffee because it has that warmth and it's just that routine, right? I don't care if it's black coffee. I don't care if it's decaf. But usually we have we're snobby. We've grown into our coffee enthusiasm. So it used to be black coffee, black coffee, black coffee. Now we have a Breville machine, which is this fancy latte machine, right? So we make espresso and steam milk and all that kinds of stuff. And I love it. I think frankly, I also think that's the best way to consume coffee. One of the things I really am adamant about, and I learned this from Dr. Ray Peat, who's just amazing. And a lot of the research around coffee that I know and love was from him. But one of the things you really don't want to do, I'm not disparaging anybody who does this, but just consider this: you don't want to have a piping hot cup of coffee, no matter what kind it is, latte, black coffee. You don't want to pump yourself full of caffeine before you've had anything to eat. Seriously, it's just not good. It's just going to push on your adrenals. You're going to release a ton of catecholamines and the norepinephrine and adrenaline and all that kinds of stuff. And that's where you get the jitters and all that kinds of stuff. And again, some of us are less sensitive to that than others. I'm really sensitive to it. So I eat my breakfast first, and then usually I'm having my coffee 30 to 60 minutes after that. So my blood sugars are coming up, which is great. That kind of blunts a little bit of that cortisol and catecholamine effect that the coffee has, the caffeine specifically. And so I get the benefit of the caffeine is amazing, really good, excellent for the liver, really good for the brain and all that sort of stuff. We know that. All the antioxidants and right. I love coffee for that reason. So if you guys aren't coffee people, you should become coffee people, or at least tea or something like that. But anyways, I'll stop belaboring on coffee. So I have my coffee. Super delicious, amazing. And then usually Sherelle and I have a moment in time where now she's downstairs. She's one of those people who drinks coffee without her breakfast. Sorry, Sherelle, I'm not trying to put you under the bus, but then we have a moment to just spend time together. The girls are doing their thing. Maybe they're reading books or whatever. And we kind of just have that quick morning huddle of what do you got going on today? What are we doing? What's, all that kinds of stuff. And I love that moment for us. And, we get to we work together a lot, all the time. So that's really special to me to, again, have that time and that peace with her. So anyways, we kind of wrap that up. And then again, if I'm going into a patient day, I'm usually starting to see patients at 9 a.m. I'm completely virtual telehealth right now. Maybe that'll change someday, but I've really enjoyed that too. I didn't know if I'd like being home all the time, because I'm a people person. I love people. So, but anyways, went virtual telehealth mostly to just be able to focus more time on HRT University. We live out in the sticks now. We're about 30, 45 minutes from Cincinnati, Ohio proper. So we're out there in the country, so to speak. And we love it. It's just been great. But I spent a lot of time driving. I would spend literally almost, if I'm driving 40 minutes into the office twice a day times 5 days a week or whatever, it was catching up. There was a lot of time, wasted time in a lot of ways. So again, a total blessing to be able to work from home. But anyway, so if I'm seeing patients, I just get right into it. Usually my patient days they're not so heavy. I mean, truly, I might see at the most 6 or 8 patients in a day, right? Mixture of follow-ups and some initial consultations and things like that. And I love that. I get to, really spend some time and hang out with a lot of my patients who I've had for years now and other patients who are new, and that's fun. I usually get to call Brittany a handful of times, my receptionist with Apollo, who's just the loveliest person you'll meet. And we get to have our kind of little huddle. How's your day going? What's going on? And I really, honestly, a lot of my days are structured around like, when do I get to call the people I love and get to talk with them a little bit? And, not just about work, like, how's your life going? How's your day going? What's going on with the family? Do you need any help with anything? Whatever that might be. Even, some of the contractors I work with, right? So maybe it's some of the video people or audio people and that kind of stuff. I love those moments because I'm a people person, and I try to make sure that I have that break between patients and stuff where I get to have those times. So that fills my cup up a lot. So, we homeschool the girls, and by we, it's very much mostly Sherelle, she's amazing at. She just crushes it. For those of you who don't know, I was homeschooled my whole life growing up. Sherelle was not. She went to public school. But we both loved the idea of homeschooling the girls, and she's really taken that on so much, and she just is a rock star at that. So the girls have co-op, which is a really great little, community where they meet up with other homeschoolers and, kind of go to school kind of thing. They can hang out with their friends, and they're out doing stuff all the time, even outside of the days where they go to co-op. They're going to the zoo or going to the park or going to the library and picking out books and all that fun stuff. So they're out doing their thing for the most part during the day, which is great because, again, I get to kind of focus on my patients, answer messages, all that sorts of stuff. So I'll mention this again, early morning, I'm trying to get the most amount of work done possible because that's when I'm sharp. So for patient days, in between patients, I'm getting to emails, like urgent emails, right? I need to get this done, or tasks maybe. And that can float into the other business too, right? Sometimes there are things I need to do for HRT University on days where I'm at Apollo and vice versa. So I try to get all that stuff done before noon. If I can get it done before 11, I'm super, super happy with that. I use Asana, which is kind of our task manager. And that's amazing because, again, I can kind of put it on my schedule, my calendar, so to speak. And I see every single day, like, here are the things I need to do, even outside of like working with patients and all that sorts of stuff. Hey, Nico, record a podcast. Hey, Nico, write this content piece, maybe work on a PowerPoint for a conference that I'm going to, whatever it might be. So, again, I think a lot of, I'm not going to call myself like ultra success. A lot of successful people would tell you, get the, we're triaging here. Get the hard stuff done first, right? It's kind of like exercise and working out, right? Like, just get it over with because it's easy to drag your feet around it. And by the evening, the last thing we want to do is like those really tough things that take up a lot of our brain power and physical power. Again, that's just from my lifestyle. Some people it might be opposite, but that works really well for me. I really like having that opportunity to get that stuff done. So then, I always have a lunch. I'm selfish in that way. I do not ever have a day where I have not blocked out my lunch. I think for years as an RN and then, as a NP student and stuff, like, lunches were a total shit show. I mean, right? If you're, most of you here are, a medical provider, if you're a nurse, an NP, a PA, a MD, it doesn't matter. DO, lunches, meals in general, especially when you're in the hospital system, let alone, God, even in a clinic, it's so challenging, right? You've got all these things to do and stuff. And so I got to a point where I said, you know what? I don't care if for some reason I'm making a little extra money because I don't eat lunch. That's not important to me. I need an hour from 12 to 1 every single day where I'm just eating lunch. And it might be kind of rushed. Again, it's not perfect, but I have that really long buffer time where I get to kind of decompress a little bit in the middle of the day. Because, again, I've also been working since like 4 or 5 a.m. So like I'm hurting. My blood sugars are dropping. I'm ready to eat. I've probably drank 15 San Pellegrinos or whatever, or Topo Chicos, my sparkling water obsession, right? And so I have to pee and I have to eat. So I set aside an hour. If Cheryl's home, we get to have lunch together. If the girls are home, amazing. Like, that is really fun too. Like, I get to just kind of like enter back into family life for a second. Again, maybe make some calls if I need to, if I have some time after lunch, and then get right back to it. So again, if I'm finishing out a clinic day, I've got my patients the rest of the afternoon. I'm getting to messages and refills and anything else that's kind of left over there. And that's usually a clinic day. I try to be done with my last patient by 5 p.m. Again, I'm kind of selfish with my schedule, but I like to be done. I like to be done at a reasonable time so that I then can easily transition back to being husband, dad, and family member and all that stuff. And I love cooking. So if I can, I will say Sherelle's picked up tremendously on that front because I'm just a lot busier. But if I have time, I'll cook dinner. I'll cook almost every meal if I can. I love to cook. It is, if you don't know that about me too, I love food. I love coffee. I love all that stuff. I love to cook. And if I can cook a really fantastic meal, I will do so. We eat, I would say 98% of our meals from home. Again, we live far away, so it's kind of just part of the deal. So we eat really well, we eat really healthy, which is really important to me. And the girls are getting older now. They're easier to take out, and honestly, they're super picky, so it's tough. But if we're feeling funky, we might go get pizza or something like that. And the girls love that. They think that's super fun. So that's kind of a day in the life of my clinic day. Now, the HRT University days are, I think, really interesting too. It's mirrored in a lot of ways. So again, the same structure exists. I'm still waking up at the same time. I'm writing my daily emails. That's, Monday through Friday. So that's just a thing I do. Breakfast, all that stuff's the same. But when I'm doing HRTU stuff, usually, for example, anything that's really heavy, again, emails, urgent things I'm trying to get done really quickly. A lot of my time is now spent building videos and content and different things like that. Which I love, and it's been really fun, and I feel like I hope I'm getting better and better and better at that. But when I'm doing that, I do try to schedule that earlier in the day than later. My brain is really sharp in the mornings. I'm full of caffeine. I've got my breakfast in me, and I can sit down and record a podcast like I am now, and hopefully make some sense. So I try to do that, and then again, usually I'm hopping into my private community and try to answer some questions. A lot of it is filled up with meetings, to be honest with you. The meetings, again, if it's an urgent meeting, I take that earlier in the day. But for the most part, if it's not urgent, which is most of the meetings, it's a later in the afternoon thing. I like meetings that way, later in the afternoon. It's kind of, again, nothing is so urgent that we have to talk about it right now. We're just kind of putting things out there. Again, if it's just Sherelle and I, maybe we're working with some of our contractors or whoever. Maybe we're having meetings with like ANCC or, a potential conference we might go to, and all that sorts of stuff. I love that. Sometimes it's just connecting, right? It's just networking, which I love. Networking on that side of things is really fun too, because again, now I'm meeting with providers who are maybe in a similar lane as I am. I get to meet with people like Courtney Walker, who's a lawyer, who again, we share like the same vision and mission, and same audience, frankly, but she's coming from this really interesting like legal compliance side of things, and I'm coming from more clinical side of things, but we're trying to work together and serve the same people, and so now we get to kind of share ideas with each other, and I love those opportunities. I get to speak with pharmacists and people in the pharmacy industry. Again, like how can we make things better and brighter for our providers? All those sorts of things. So I try to schedule those meetings a little bit later in the day. So again, I feel like I still have plenty enough brain power to get through that stuff. But this is honestly for me, it's fun. It's not challenging. It's not overwhelming. I thrive on those things. So I really enjoy that. I would tell you my evening routine. So we eat dinner. We eat dinner really, really early. So we're usually eating like at 5 p.m. And again, maybe it's because I wake up early, but I'm starving. I'm ready to eat at like 4 p.m. So are my girls. So we eat early. And we're like old souls, right? So we eat early. And then we usually have time to go outside. We live in the country. So like our backyard is really beautiful and amazing. Sherelle and we had this dream of someday putting in this really cool pavilion in the backyard, like a covered pavilion, right? Because our backyard is like really open, so it's just blasting us with sun all day long, and it's hot as hell. And so we put this pavilion up, and that's been really fun. So we get to spend a lot of time outside and just honestly gaze at nature, read. Maybe the girls will go for a bike ride, or we'll go down to the creek and fish for a little bit, depending on the season. So that's usually our evening. By 7 o'clock, we're getting the girls ready for bed. I know that sounds crazy early, maybe to some of you, but we wake up early and we go to bed early. So, and the girls are amazing. They're so funny. So bedtime routine it's still a bedtime routine. It's crazy. It's wild. It's, them trying to negotiate staying up, or can I get a last minute snack? And so we do all that stuff. They brush their teeth. And that's another moment, a moment that I really cherish, which is like we read before bed. So the girls my oldest is, well, they're both reading, which is really crazy now. My oldest is 8. My youngest will be 6 here in just several weeks, but they're both reading and they do amazing. And so they get to read, and then usually I'm reading, and we have like a little children's Bible that we love to crack open and read together as a family, and we get to learn together. And it's sweet. It's a lot of fun. To be able to just have that quiet time with the girls before bed. So they're getting tucked in at like 7:30, and they get to listen to, we have like these, I swear this is like, if you're not a parent, I'm sorry, this podcast is probably so boring, but we have these things called Yodo players. And if I can influence you for a moment, Yodo players are incredible. I'm not sponsored by them. They're these little, they're literally like iPods. They're like these little cubes, and they come with these like cards, and they're book, like any book you can think of, Harry Potter or Dr. Seuss, whatever. Like you can buy cards and they can slip them into this little MP3 player, and it starts playing. So it's audiobooks essentially. And they love it. They absolutely love it. There's no screen to it, really. So it's not like they're just farting around on a screen and getting blue light blasting their face all night long. They're listening to their favorite stories. They get to pick them out. And we're big on reading and all that stuff. We just love that stuff, and it's so good for the girls, and they really enjoy it. So they're not like asleep at 7:30. They're listening to the Yodo players for probably an hour or more, until they fall asleep. And Sherelle and I, again, now we have seriously, truly our time together. And that is a non-negotiable thing. That is one of the reasons why we put the girls to bed so early too. Is so that, selfishly, we get to have some time together, just her and I, because it's challenging, as you know, as parents. Like, when you find that time to be alone and connect and share the funny things and the sad things, whatever happened during the day, like when you have that time is so valuable and so precious, and we reserve that in the evening. So again, we might not get to go on dates all the time. And we try to make that a thing, by the way. We try to go out, I would say at least minimum like once a month. It's just Cheryl and I, we get to go out and do something. And, either my parents are babysitting, or in-laws, or, one of my, beloved babysitters who come around and babysit, and so that's great. But again, because we get to carve that time out, we really we're not suffering. Like, we're not like, oh my God, our marriage is falling apart because we haven't had a moment in time together. Like, we have a lot of that, because we kind of have structured our day to end with that. And frankly, it's us sitting on the couch. We're simple people. I'll tell you, like, I love watching TV shows. Cheryl and I love that. Like, we get to watch a TV show together. Sometimes we're reading. Again, my brain is like shutting off actively at 7:38. So I've got like maybe 20 or 30 minutes of me of reading in the evenings. And I read a lot of, I used to read I read an unbelievable amount of fiction when I was younger. And I still like to try to do that every now and then to mix it up. But I read a lot of nonfiction. I read a lot of autobiographies and biographies, a lot about business, obviously tons about science and hormones and things like that. So that could be a PubMed article, but I like to have paper at that time. Like, I'm not staring at a screen all night long if I'm reading. Cheryl's usually knitting next to me. And again, it's just a quiet, peaceful time that we have together. We try to shut everything down by 9:30. And we're trying to be in bed between 9:30 and 10 o'clock p.m. And we have a very, very, very healthy, I think, sleep routine. Black room, like it is dark, really dark. We have blackout curtains. There ain't no light getting in. We have a very nice sound machine playing some white noise. That's Cheryl's thing. I was always like, I could fall asleep wherever. She really needs that. And now, of course, I'm addicted to it. So it travels with us. It goes everywhere with us. We have a white noise machine. If we have like night lights and stuff, they're red lights, so it's not like disrupting our circadian rhythm and all this stuff. We have to get up and go pee or whatever, check on the girls. That's been a nice addition as well. I think for the most part, our day and life and rhythms are structured around how can we maximize our own health and wellness as a family, and also how can we not just like be obsessive about that, but also like get out and enjoy ourselves. And so, again, that we're not psychos. We're not like crazy strict about things, but it is really important to us that we have these routines. The house is clean and again, and we're a family. It's messy a lot, but we try to clean. We try to make conscious efforts to clean up and stay organized and stay on top of things. And so I love that. And Cheryl's a huge, huge player there. So, Cheryl and I, we share a lot of responsibilities just kind of naturally. You know what I mean? Like, I love to cook and do the dishes. So that's just like something I do. She's obsessed. Like, she's psycho about doing laundry. She loves it. She like gets off on doing laundry and folding. Can you believe that? Am I not the luckiest guy in the world? She does all that. And it's not like an argument of like, you're not helping around the house or any, like we don't have those arguments. We have our things and we do our things. And, I think, again, to be successful on that front is to have some sort of structure and routine. And so I want to kind of go back to an earlier topic that I was mentioning, which again, I've personally found really helpful, which is I want to create things in my environment to give me wins, not feel like it's a loss. So for example, again, for me, waking up early is not a death sentence. It doesn't feel that way. It really doesn't. It is easy for me to do. I can accomplish that very easily and be really successful and get a lot of work done. That's just how I do it. So I love structuring my day that way. If you are not a morning person, and that's okay, like you don't have to be. You do not have to wake up at 5 a.m. like a psycho like me. You can wake up at a regular person time, but maybe you're really, really, really productive in the evenings. And instead of maybe having that quiet time in the mornings, you save that for the evenings, and that's when you get your work done. Now, does that interfere with your family life and stuff? That's something you might want to consider. But hey, if you're like, dude, I can stay up till like 11 or 12, like no problem, easy peasy, and then sleep in, do that. And so we see this across the board. In terms of habits, building habits and building success, it's like try to do a little bit more of that positive reinforcement and get rid of the things that are negatives. In our house, we don't have junk food in our house. Like seriously, we don't. You know why? Because I don't have the willpower. I don't have enough of it, seriously, to stay away from it. If there is a pack of Oreos in my house, I will eat the entire pack. I will. I come off as like crunchy and cool and like I will eat that stuff. I purposely remove that stuff from my house so I don't eat it. And we try to buy a lot of fruit and vegetables and have fresh things and things that are delicious that would really make me feel happy too. It's not like painful. I don't buy fruits that I hate. I buy fruits that I really like, and I buy vegetables that I really like, and we have delicious dinners. And so we really try to, again, create that positive reinforcement for ourselves. I like to have my delicious San Pellegrinos. I spend so much stupid money on those things. Like, it's silly how much money I spend on flavored bubbly water, but I love it. I really, really enjoy it. It brings me joy. It makes me smile. It feels so refreshing. And, after a podcast, there's nothing better than like cracking open a cold one, and it doesn't have to be alcohol. It's just a bubbly, delicious seltzer water. That's what I do. Same with again, with food and all that stuff. Like, have it set up so that you're not tempted to lose, to ruin your entire day because you happen to just fill your house or fill your environment with things that are really seriously going to make it hard for you to be productive. I think that's massive. So again, then you're kind of building discipline in, but it's not disciplinary in like a negative sense. Right? I'm not punishing myself, and I'm not saying there isn't room for like negative reinforcement also, but what's very clear is that positive reinforcement, it's a little easier to grasp, and it's a little easier to handle mentally and physically and emotionally. So that's what we choose to do. And again, I've found that to be really successful. I'll tell you other things. I have a Facebook group, obviously, and many of you guys are on there, but I'm not on social media a lot. I try not to be, because it will just suck you in, and it's not your fault. It's really easy to say like, hey, like just stop getting on there and just get off social media. Like, that is so much easier said than done, because those apps are developed for you to stay on there forever. They've cracked the code. They understand what is it that attracts human beings. Bright colors, lights, crazy fast videos, and quick movements on the video, so it captures your eyes and you're looking all over the place. It's very stimulating, extremely stimulating. Most of it's we call it like fear porn, right? Like, you're just like, oh my god, this is horrible, but you get sucked in. It's like watching a car accident, which some people do on social media. Like, there's all those things and components to it that the more I've removed myself, my mental health just like explodes. It's so much better. Like, I feel so much more relief. The more I spend time on social media, the worse it becomes. Like, serious. It's palpable. And so the more time you spend away from it, the more you recognize how detrimental it really is. And I'll be honest, like, I get sucked in every now and then. I do. It's really, really hard. When I'm trying to do something on my Facebook group or something, and then I'm all of a sudden on my homepage, now I'm doom scrolling, and for no reason. So if you can find ways to try to step away from that, especially if it's not, it's not providing any real value to you, which again, I think we make it as though it is, but it usually isn't. We've been really lucky. We've been extremely successful without having to be on social media as far as like our business goes, for both sides, for better, for worse. I'm not interested in necessarily making a lot of money if it means my mental health, physical health goes to shit. That's not very attractive to me. It's really not. And I never felt like social media was like, oh my gosh, this is like insane. Like, every time I post, like, I get 500 new patients. Some of you might, that's great. But to feel tied to that, oh man, that just feels like jail to me. I mean, it feels like now I can't escape. It's like, it's a hamster wheel that I can't get off. And I don't want to do that. That's the whole reason I went into business, was to find ways to create more space and time for myself and the family to be together, and to provide, really great value and service to other people, not just being sucked on social media all day long. So anyways, if that's helpful to anybody, I hope that's interesting. Find ways to separate yourself from those sorts of things. As far as other daily routines go, I take a lot of supplements in the morning. I'm a supplement guy. No surprise, right? I love my supplements. I take a handful of them, and maybe the next podcast I'll get into that. Like, what supplements do I take, and why, and do I like them, and what maybe brands or things like that. But I take supplements every single day. I'm very regimented around that. I take my TRT, right? I love TRT. It's been such a blessing for me. So again, I try to be routine about that. One thing I will tell you that I do is on my phone, I have like reminders. I am not great at doing things if I am not reminded to do them. I don't know how people can be successful without reminders. So I have reminders so on your iPhone, if you go into like the reminders app thing, you can type it out. And then if you go to like the info part, like the settings of that. So like, for example, take vitamins. That's like one of my settings and reminders. Although go into the info part and set the priority to high, and it'll give like 3 exclamation points next to it. And then it'll ask me, like, do you want it to be every single day? If so, fantastic. What time would you like it to remind you? So I set those reminders early enough so that like I know I'll have time to do it right then and there, and then I'm not delaying it. But if you don't clear that reminder, it's just going to hang on your phone all day long. You can't get rid of it. You can't unsee it. So that's been really helpful for me. I have multiple reminders that go off all day long. And maybe that would drive you crazy, but it helps me be really regimented. And again, it's something that's just going to be in my face until I get it done. And once I build it into a habit, really, I probably don't need most of those reminders at this point. They're honestly almost comforting to have. I know I'm going to remember to do it because I have a reminder that's going to go off, and I don't have to spend any more mental power trying to remember that. So I'll speak to that for a moment. Like, try to limit the amount of decisions you have to make every day, which becomes harder and harder and harder. The older you get, the more responsibilities you take on. You have the family, you have the kids, you have the wife, you have the dog, you have the businesses, you have teammates, and all that stuff. It gets really challenging. So try to find ways, like, what are the little things that I can do to not have to constantly try to make a decision around? or remember even, right? Decision fatigue. A lot of decision fatigue is like honestly based around like remembering to do something and then now having to make the decision around when do I do that? How do I do that? Oh, that drives me crazy. So, for me, again, I have a pretty simple, I'm going to get into fashion for a second. I'm not a fashionable guy. I don't think, but I have clothes that are neutral in color. Sharon and I are like earth tone kind of people. For whatever reason, we match a lot. People make fun of us in a good way. It's kind of funny. You'll see today I'm wearing like a earth tony kind of shirt and brown. Anyways, the reason for that is everything matches. Like I don't have to really, I wake up and like, I don't have to spend a ton of time. Like you could be like Steve Jobs and just wear like the black turtleneck and jeans and the same shoes every single day. Honestly, I've done that before in my life. When I was in person in the clinic, I wore a black shirt and black pants and black, like I was always in all black. I just chose that because it looks good. It's very clean looking. It's very professional looking. Again, I could have a black long sleeve shirt, a black short sleeve shirt. It didn't matter. It always looked the same. It always looked really good. And it was zero. It took me zero effort. I wake up and boom, I'm putting this on. I'm moving. I'm a little more fancy today. But it doesn't feel that difficult because again, everything kind of matches. I can just kind of shirt, pants, shoes, like boom, put it all together and I'm off to the races kind of thing. So again, just little things like that can create so much mental relief for you. And I think a lot of us spend so much time just toiling over what am I going to wear today? And then I try on 15 different things. And then do I look at it? And I am a bigger fan of like, I'm going to pick high quality things. I'm going to go with things that I know I'm going to look good in and feel good in, and I can mix and match really quickly. And again, just kind of move on with my day. I love that stuff. So those are, again, just little things that I do as far as my daily routines go to be successful. The only other thing I'll mention, I think this is important in terms of like creating that daily routine, that habit, that structure. It's more of a mindset thing, but I try to be really cautious about the way I think. I try to be really, really, really cautious about how I, like, what are the things that I'm saying to myself internally? And if I'm feeling stressed or anxious or overwhelmed, how am I talking to myself? So if you kind of have that internal dialogue, are you cautious about the way in which you say things about yourself or to yourself? Are you negative a lot of the times? Like I find that so many people are really, and I used to be this way, like super, super negative to themselves. We are always going to be our harshest critic and we take things really hard. And so I try not to be too hard on myself these days. And I try to be really cautious about like, am I calling myself stupid or dumb or like, oh, Nico, you always do that? Do I say things that, first of all, just are now creating more of a mountain out of a molehill? There's this idea. It's not, it's an old idea, but it's a true idea, which I think your thoughts create your reality. And I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but like one of the best examples, like it's a really easy example. If anybody here has ever been like, oh, for example, I really want this type of car. Let's just say, I'm just making shit up, it's a Toyota Highlander. It's that lime green thing and it looks really sweet and whatever. If you say that to yourself and you think about that, and that's something that you really want, it takes up some space and real estate in your brain, in your mind, all of a sudden you're going to see that car everywhere, at the gas stations, on the highway. It's as if like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. I love that car. Now I'm seeing it all the time. You're not all of a sudden seeing it all the time. Like it's not just like magic. It just like appears. It is literally that your attention is now focused on that thing. Whereas in the past, those same cars were there. They're always there. They always will be. You just weren't paying attention to it because it didn't matter to you. It wasn't a part of your ecosystem in your brain and in your mind. So that is literally like your thoughts create your reality. If you think I'm never going to be successful at waking up early, and you really feel that, you tie that to an emotion because you're like, oh, I wanted to wake up early and I didn't. That literally creates in your body and in your brain and your heart and soul and mind, I believe this, a sense of like, okay, great, then I won't. Like, you've told me that that is true. And so then that's what I believe. And that's what I experience. Versus, oh, I did really want to wake up early today and I failed, but it's okay. Sometimes I make mistakes and that's okay. And I'm going to get better at this. And in fact, I'm going to do something. I'm going to take an action to now create an easier win so that I don't have to make that mistake again. Maybe it's a reminder in my phone or whatever it is, right? I'm going to try to create a feeling and an emotion to tie to that thing, right? So I'm going to envision like, actually, what would that take for me to be successful here? And what does that feel like? Like, I wake up and I'm like, yes, I did it. I woke up at 5 a.m. and I've been wanting to do that forever. And I finally did it. Sit with that win for a second and tie that emotion to that thought. And now all of a sudden that is your body and your brain and your mind and your soul. You're like, oh, I'm connected with this now. Like I've got a behavior and an emotion all connected to this thought. And now I'm acting that out in real time. I know I'm probably getting a little esoteric here, but that has been extremely powerful for me. It's been unbelievably helpful in my life. Beyond Positivity is a book. If anybody's ever interested in like understanding that a little bit more in depth, it's a great book. And I cannot remember it might be on my shelf here. No, it's not. Anyways, it's a great book. It's like purple. It's really small. It's really short, super easy read. I believe the guy who wrote it was a PhD psychologist. Anyways, it's a great book. Beyond Positive Thinking is what it's called. Beyond Positive Thinking, you find on Amazon, dirt cheap. I highly recommend getting that book and reading it. It has really helped me shape a lot of my reality. And I honestly, I owe a lot of my success to that, what success I have, because it helped me really get out of this habit of like, oh, I'm such a loser, I'm so stupid, or I'm so dumb. And of course I always do that. Nico, you moron. Like, it's really helped me like overcome a lot of that stuff. And so for what it's worth, if anybody's ever felt that way or experienced that, I highly recommend reading that book and really taking it to heart and practicing these things. So again, little takeaway for you guys here. This is my daily routine. Number one, what you should know is this doesn't necessarily mean it should be yours. Okay. There are some things that I probably said that are like, oh, I love that. And there are other things that I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. That's okay. Try to make this your own. Try to find, again, those easy wins. What's going to be practical for me in my life, in my situation, in my family, with my work right now? What's going to make the most sense? And how can I create an easy win out of that? How can I make sure that my entire environment is set up for me to be successful? If I really want to go to bed at a good time, do I need a reminder to tell me, hey, you need to get to bed? It's good for you. And when you go to bed, are you making sure that your phone is off? Are you making sure the, blackout curtains are drawn and the sound machine's going and you're really just focused on sleeping? Find ways to make easy wins, build that positive reinforcement. And then again, try to front load your days with the hard stuff. Get it over with. Just get it out of the way so you don't have to think about it anymore. Try to limit as much of those stupid, annoying decisions you have to make every single day, and then let the rest of your day kind of feel a little bit more smooth and like you're kind of on the tail end of things, and you can go relax and not have to think about business stuff all day long. So, and then again, last but not least, just think about the way in which you think and the way you talk to yourself. And if it's really negative, if you notice that as like a theme, break that. And again, I highly recommend Beyond Positive Thinking. It's a great book to just kind of learn a little bit more about that. How do you connect your emotion and behaviors together so that it's building and breeding success? And if you do fail, which you will, you're going to fail. I'm going to eat a pack of Oreos at some point in time, like an idiot. Like, it's okay. I don't need to like be so hard on myself. I can just move on. I can just say, hey, I that's not something I do. It's not. It's not who I am. It is not me anymore. And I can move forward from that. So anyways, guys, I hope this is interesting and helpful in any way, shape, and form. That's my daily routine. And let me know if any of this really speaks to you. And I hope it does. Guys, don't forget, I have a daily email. I talk about a lot of this stuff still in my daily emails. If you go into the link below, you'll see it's called Nico's Daily Email. I write it every single day, Monday through Friday. in the mornings. We talked about that already. It's just me and you and I, and it's like having a little conversation with you and learning all about HRT and all kinds of fun stuff there. So please hop on. There's over 1,000 providers on there now and all kinds of people. It's a great place to learn. It's totally free. Just a great accessible place. Don't forget to visit hrtuniversity.com if you're interested in learning more about HRT and all the ways you can apply that into your practices, into your clinics, into your patients' lives, and create amazing outcomes. And we also have a great Facebook group if you're ever interested in joining Nico's HRT University. That's the Facebook group. If you search that, there's also links below. Again, you can find all this stuff there. Thank you guys so much. Today is Halloween when I'm recording this right now. So for those of you who are getting out there with the kids and getting some candy and all that, have a great time. And I'll see you at the next episode. Take care.